And it just predated the Nifty 50, if people have heard of that. But Buffett couldn't find stuff that made sense for him to invest. And so, you know, he returned the capital, right? The same thing happened in the tech bubble. I mean, there was all sorts of articles about how Buffett had lost his way, right? Old fogyism, you know, knew too much that was no longer true. It's a new era, you know, all this stuff. And he told folks that nothing had changed and the market was overvalued. And so for the second time, you know, he issued a warning. So I think this is really important to investors, is to really, you know, figure out what you're all about. There's been some really people that I admire so much come here to speak to you that have very different approaches. And something that I struggle with quite a bit for a few months actually was thinking about, okay, we had young Buffett, okay, in the early stages, he's a lot like Tobias Carlyle was, right? He's pure Graham. He's looking for statistical, you know, cigar butts that are super cheap, out of favor. By the end, he's a lot like Tom Gaynor, right? Where he's got, you know, the majority of his funds in American Express, right? He bought Walt Disney. So he went from, you know, buying Dempster Mill, which is a windmill implements company on the verge of bankruptcy, to, you know, high quality businesses that were compounding and were compounders in general, right? And so the question is, you know, what should you do? So I was trying to think, okay, what kind of advice should I be giving? If somebody asked me what's right, and you know, Tobias has got great statistics, you know, he's got all this math that shows, you know, his way is better, right? But then Tom Gaynor's got, you know, this great stat on Graham, which is that, yeah, he bought a lot of cigar butts, but guess what? He made more money in Geico than he made in all his other investments combined. So if you find one great compounder and you make 19 other mistakes, you know, you're still bound to do wonderfully well because of the way that compound interest works. So the answer that I came to was that, unfortunately, what should you do? It depends on you, right? Play your game. Figure out what your circle of competence is. You know, what areas are you interested in and passionate about? Where are you apt to be able to have an understanding of what a business is worth, right? And then what is your sort of psychological disposition to being on this treadmill of cigar butts? Because, you know, they are sort of fleeting in their value, and you have to be on a constant search for them, which is very different than, you know, what Buffett does now, or Mr. Gaynor does at Markel, which is, you know, buy great businesses and sort of sit on your butt, right? So the other thing I will say before I close on this topic is that very early in the partnership, 1959, 1960, Buffett put 35% of the funds in a company called Sanborn Map Company, which was a mapping business used in the insurance field. And the market cap at the time was right around its stated book equity of $4.5 million. Okay, so the inflation factor being 7 or 8, you can be thinking, $35 million market cap. Now that is a minuscule thing, right? So the idea of following Buffett because he bought, Phillips 66, right? That might be great, but if you're at a position where you can sort of put the Geiger counter over some of these micro caps